welcome to Take Two Radio. I'm Pam, your host, and joining me today from, I'm sure, sunny California is my special guest co-host and friend, Mike Lidskin. How you doing, Mike?
Great, Pam, and yes, it is sunny. Not to rub it in, but it's been the low 80s here. Okay, I rubbed it in.
Oh, my God, and I'm happy today is like 55.
God, that is a nice fall day in Chicago. And I got to tell you something. I got the best text message ever this morning. My brother is visiting Chicago, and he sent me a text message because, I used to live there for about 10 years back in the 80s and 90s. And his text message simply said this: Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, or Gino's East? ? So he wanted to know where to go for lunch, basically. I said yes.
Yeah,
he said, well, which
one would you pick?
I waffled on it, but I finally said, well, they're all great. You can't make a bad decision. I said Giordano's is the one I used to go to a lot, but they're all good. Just allow some time to sleep it off later.
I would have gave him option D. I would have said Home Run and Pizza because that is the best pizza in Chicago.
Oh, I used to work with a guy that loved that place. I never got to go to Home Run, though.
Well, you come back here and you have to eat it because you'll never eat another pizza again. I promise you.
That's the deal. That's the deal. I'll probably be in Chicago next year, so that sounds like a plan.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I think we better get to our guest since he's hanging out on the side of the road somewhere.
Don't want to leave him stranded on the road.
Right. Today we welcome blues rock singer-songwriter and guitarist JP of the band JPBlues Band. How you doing, JP?
I would say Giordano's.
See, he knows the stuff pizza.
The drummer and I were in Chicago a couple months ago, and everyone was saying that's actually the only pizzeria that we ate. But we were there 2 nights in a row and weren't feeling too great after that because it didn't sit well. But no, Giordano's was amazing. Chicago pizza is great. Sorry, I had to jump in that conversation.
That's all right. That's all right. If you're going for stuffed pizza, I guess that's probably the place to go. I'm the type of person that likes really thin crust pizza. I don't like the stuffed. It sits like a lead balloon in your stomach.
Yeah.
Oh, I gained weight.
I can agree.
I gained some weight when I lived there, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you're on the road. You're on tour. Where are you? You said you're in New York?
Yeah, we're upstate New York right now, pulled over in a service area, and the band is taking a break. And it's been on the road for about 2 weeks, and we're actually we're doing our last show tour in Maine, so that's where we're headed, and it's tomorrow.
Oh, cool. How's everything been working out?
Oh, great. There's always those road stories.
Yes. And we'd love to hear them.
well, we started out in Georgia, where we're based at, and then we went up to D.C. We pulled up to our gig in Long Island, and the axle went in the van.
Oh.
So literally a block away from the venue. So we were lucky to pull it up, broke, and had to get that fixed. But it was a lot of fun because the bass player, in the same day got interviewed by the local news, News 12, and it was just hysterical. They were asking him about hygiene. And he was
what?
He was like, I'm on the road now, and we're going to talk about hygiene. You picked the perfect person, a musician. That's perfectly boring. So, but everything's been great. The venue's been going well, and can't complain. So,
is anybody in the band a mechanic, or at least tries to be one?
Tries, yes.
Yeah.
But the trying doesn't always help.
No.
But luckily we got the van to a mechanic that was less than a mile away. I'm originally from Long Island, so all I had to do was make one call. Everyone's like, I know who to go to. So I was like,
good.
okay. So yeah, it worked out. But I'm sitting in the van right now, and it's doing well. So.
Good. Is it a newer van, or is it one of those like 70s hippies vans?
It's
van.
Yeah, it's one of those. All I got to do is probably put a disco light, spinning light on top, and be the shaggin' wagon. But it's a '97 Ford E150. It only has 140,000 miles, but it packs in subs, PA, all drums. It's a whole bunch of equipment, so it's what we need.
Yeah, definitely.
That's real workhorse, yeah.
Yeah, we don't travel light. So.
Well, let's start out with a little background for our listeners. When and how did you become interested in being a musician?
Well, I started actually playing drums when I was about 8, and it just the instrument didn't really sit with me. My drum teacher had moved, but I grew up in a very musical family. Had my stepfather particularly had a recording studio, and there was like 30 guitars on the wall, so I was pretty spoiled. But when I was 11 years old, I decided to pick one up, and he was in a blues band, and first riff I played was Hoochie Coochie Man, and then he after about 4 months, he showed me a pentatonic scale. I jammed to Eric Clapton, and it kind of just fit with me well. So being from Long Island, there was a great jam circuit and a lot of great musicians. So after about 4 months, I started hitting the jam circuit there. I was introduced to a true legend, Sam Bluesman Taylor, and I was fortunate to work with him, touring and playing as a special guest alongside him for a few years, and he really got me into the genre of blues, and since then I just fortunate to have lived on Long Island and worked with the musicians that I have. Michael Torrey, who is now Johnny Winter's harp player, and Phil Grande, who was the guitarist for Joe Cocker.
Wow.
Then about 2 years ago, I moved to Atlanta, so that's where this whole project is based out of now.
Now, I got to back you up 1 second. How in the world did they let, an 11, 12-year-old kid start playing in blues clubs in Long Island? That's amazingly young.
Yeah, there was the first venue that I started at was a venue called Paula Jean's, and every Sunday they had an open jam, and it was a Cajun restaurant with a bar on the other side. So the first jam I sat in with was an artist named Bobby Sexton, and he was a jazz player. But it just grew up fast, being able to squeeze in between people, being 4'8" and sneaking in the bar and life after school. Right. You know how it goes.
Yes.
So, well, who would you say were your main influences growing up besides your family?
As musicians, my main influences, I was really into Eric Clapton, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that sort. And then later years, I really got into Derek Trucks and Warren Haynes, and Joe Bonamassa. So I took it upon myself to kind of study each artist and mold my own style. But it definitely helped having a musical family
right.
Guide me through the business and guide me musically.
Yeah, I would think that. Right, yeah. I would think that maybe you were doing something completely different than what your friends were doing at that time when you were so young like that, listening to different bands.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone's like, at that age was like, yeah, Limp Bizkit. And I was like, yeah, Muddy Waters. But, you know, so that was the odd one out. But I, you know, not to go into a whole tragic story, but I had broke my hip when I was 13, and I was on crutches and on my back for about 2 years. So I was homeschooled during that time, and I really dug into guitar. I shedded some wood, and because that's all I could do, you know. I would hop up on stage with a crutch under my arm, playing, you know, every chance I could get. But that's when I really started developing my style and realizing that this was, you know, what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow. Well, so you were self-taught on the guitar?
You know, I studied with a lot of different guitarists. First guitarist I started out with was a guy named Jim Durso, and he was a jazz player. And then I was in a band with a guy named Billy Albright, who was, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Calhoun. Kind of more back in the day, but they were pretty successful, and so I studied with him. And then, like I said, I was very fortunate to work with such amazing artists on Long Island, like Sam Bluesman Taylor and Bill Grande, Frank Latore, Gary Carney, all these guys just being local in that scene, you know, in the jam circuit, in the gigging circuit, and I had a team behind me pushing me to introduce me to these people and just get up there and play. So, yeah, they gave me a chance, and that's how it worked.
Well, you know, you play with so many well-known musicians, you know, the ones you mentioned, and then there's Scott Holt and Jeff Ackerson and Debbie Davis, and et cetera. Did any of them give you advice that you now pass down to up-and-coming bands?
One of the biggest advice that I was really given is like when you're performing, right, and you're trying to do this as you're living, your goal should be a sustainable career in music. You know, there's a lot of income streams that you can utilize within the business, and that's where a lot of musicians fall short. I actually studied in New York, got my bachelor's with music business, and that's a huge piece of advice is to really utilize all your income streams that you can. You know, I teach, I work at a recording studio, you know, I write, you perform. There's so much that you can do in the business that it can make it, you know, a feasible thought that, wow, I can be a musician. And that's how you can really do it, you know. And I was told that by a lot of people, and throughout my career, that should be your ultimate goal on those outlets that you can find within the business, and you can make it happen.
Yeah, that's definitely some great advice. There's a lot of bands out there that just do some gigs here and there and make an EP every once in a while, and you're not going to make a living doing that. So
yeah, no, you know, and it's I know so many musicians that you know, that they think I'll just do a CD and something will happen and I'll stay local and that will be it. But you know, the real answer is you got to get out there and do as much as you can. If you stay a local band, you'll just be a local band.
Right.
You know, that you build your fan base and it's great, but then, you know, you just got to get out there and keep building it and do as much as you can within the business. You know, if that's what you truly love, that's what you'll do.
Definitely. You can't treat it as a hobby if you want it as a job. So.
Yeah, exactly.